Tonight, I feel like the Lord really wanted me to talk to you all about the difference between religion versus worship. And one thing about worshiping God and learning how to worship God, you have to be able to worship God from the right motives and from the right place in your heart. All right. Now we know that worship is what? What is worship? If y'all can throw out some answers there. What is worship? Worship. Yes. Okay, that's very good. What you do after in front of people that's not saved. All right, come on, let's get some other answers. Isaac trying to figure that one out. Like, what do you mean? All right. Yeah, you can explain a little bit more. That's very good. That's how people make statements like worship is a lifestyle. You ever heard people say that kind of stuff? It's about how you live. What else is worship? What else is worship? Bree? What else is worship? Trying to think. What you say, Audrey? Thanking God. Yes, thanking God is worship. Yes. And that is important because you have to have that particular attitude in your heart to be able to want to thank God. Some of y'all have notes things to take notes on, and some of you don't, but I would like for you to take notes if you can. So I been talking to different young people just from time to time about different things. Some of them include my kids, some of them don't, or whatever. And just really having really open and honest conversations. And I've been reading this book. I don't want to give all the credit. I'm not giving no credit to myself. But I've been reading this book right here. It's called How to Worship a King by Zach Neese. And he is basically breaking some things down. But what I thought was so good was that some of the conversations that I've been having with some of the young people, he literally began to talk about some of these things as far as our attitudes for worship. And one of the things that I'm finding is even some of those that have left here is that we tend to worship God, or we tend to serve God and try to be good because we want to make sure that our blessings don't get taken away. Or we want to make sure that he don't kill me while I'm driving on the road because I know better. And my parents have taught me already that this is how we should do it. And so if I make a mistake and do something and live like the world in some kind of way, because really deep down inside, I really want to live like the world. But if I do that, God might kill me, so I don't want to. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like this fear thing going on. And so, man, I was like, when one of the young people I was talking to brought that up to me, I was like, man, that is so, it just like grieved me out. Because I'm like, we missed something here. We missed being able to help y'all understand that there's supposed to be a click over in your relationship with God. All right, so I don't want to get too much ahead of myself. But I want to tell y'all this story. When we were younger, y'all know we was raised in a Christian home, and y'all know my parents, they were Christians, and they were, pastors. And before my parents had a church, they served in the ministry, and they really, really lived for the Lord. And we grew up in what we would call a very strict household. All right, and so at one time, it was the style for everybody was getting the like gold earrings and the gold, the medallions and stuff, and you get your initials on it, you get your name and everything. Yeah, all those you get all of that stuff. Well, in our household, it didn't matter if you bought it yourself or not. If you got something like that, it had to say Jesus. It could not have your name on it. It had to say Jesus. When I tell you, to us, that was the most ridiculous, most controlling, it just was like, are y'all really serious? You know what I'm saying? That's why we got to get out of this house. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just too much. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if y'all know, I started running away from home when I was about 14. And the third time I ran away, I stayed. And but when I ran away, The first opportunity I had to buy myself some earrings, ooh, boy, I bought, they was big too. They had the dime, they had the quarters, they had the 50-cent ones. I think mine was like 50 cents. They might be a little bit bigger. But I had Demaries inscribed right across. This what it's about. You heard me? This is how I'm going to live. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do this because I'm out of that control. You know what I'm saying? And I can do this if I want to. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to continue to tell you about that story as we go along. So let's get started here. We're going to talk about religion versus worship, the journey from slavery to bond service. All right, so tell me if it moved. Did it move? All right, there we go. All right, so let's do some definitions here. First of all, let's talk about religion, the slave. Religion is a slave mentality. Religion is us serving God with a slave mentality. All right? When we serve out of a slave mentality, we serve God out of compulsion. Anybody understand what compulsion is? Anybody know what that means? Anybody? You don't have to be a youth or a young adult. Just scream it out. Tell me what it is. Gee, I forgot I put the definition up there. Go ahead. What you said? Yes. Yes, being forced. The use of power to impose one's will on another. And then it says some synonyms are arm twisting, coercion, constraint, force, pressure, bullying, browbeating. This is what a slave thinks about. They serve out of this because they know that if I don't do this, I'm going to get punished. I know a lot of y'all have seen slave movies. We've talked out a lot about Black history, right? And y'all know slavery was one of the worst things in America. America is still getting judged because of the slavery that they enforced and the way that they did it. But slavery was, serving. That's what religion is. It's serving out of a slave mentality where you think that if I don't do what God says to do, He is going to beat me. If I don't do what God says to do, He's going to punish me. He's going to take away the blessings that He's given me, right? It also says that a slave mentality is motivated from fear of punishment. A slave's identity and value comes through their performance and their work. So if you're a slave, if you work really well, then you're valuable to your master, right? They want to keep you. You know what I'm saying? Y'all remember when we learned about what his name was? The one that went and got he went to Canada and bought the property like we did. What his name? Josiah Henson. What was one of the reasons why Josiah Henson, master never wanted to sell him? Because he was good. He was good. He was loyal. His identity and his value to his master came through the fact that he did well. And when we serve God out of a slave mentality and we try to worship God out of a slave mentality, then it's all about whether or not I do well. It's all about whether or not I do right. And then another thing about a slave, deep down inside, a slave longs to be his own master. He longs to, but like I told you about them earrings, the day I got out of there, as soon as I got my money, boy, I'm going to be my own master today. I'm going to get Demaries' biggest cup up in here. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put my first name and my middle name, everything. You know what I'm saying? And so it just was like, and that's like a minor thing that I did as soon as I got out. Because there was a lot of stuff that I did when I got from out under what I considered to be slavery, all right? But that's the slave mindset that we have, and we bring that over in our relationship with God. And the thing is that young people, okay, let me slow it down a little bit. The thing is that when your parents are raising you and when they're teaching you, they are supposed to teach you right from wrong. They're supposed to teach you that, hey, if you touch that stove, you're going to get burned. They're supposed to teach you that there's consequences from doing wrong, right? But at a certain point, they stop spanking you and they stop punishing you because you got to have enough sense to not want to touch that fire yourself, right? Okay, so your parents are not wrong for trying to teach you that when we serve God, that there are consequences when we don't do right. Right? And the reason why I'm bringing that up, because a lot of the young things that the young people are dealing with these days, even some that have left, that they feel like they left here and they got away from mental slavery. That's the word they was using. Mental slavery, that's what we have taught y'all, but that's not what we're trying to teach y'all. Our job is to teach you how to serve God. You understand what I'm saying? And so when my parents was telling me that I don't want you to we don't want you putting your own name on that. They wasn't just saying, oh, we just want you to have Jesus. What they were trying to tell us is that if you're going to represent anything in your lifestyle, represent Christ. Don't represent yourself. You know, the world rep themselves. The world rep Tommy Hilfiger. The world rep Polo. At the time, what else? It was Jay Riggins. Everything with the big name on it, Nike, everything. If you're going to represent something, represent Christ if that's what you're going to be about. You understand? But we didn't see it like that. And that's what happens when we have a slave mentality. And so we struggle with our worship with God because we haven't clicked over to what is supposed to be a bond service. Now let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 15. Real quick. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 15. I'm going to go. Oh, no, I have it right here already out. Deuteronomy 15, Lord, I can't see, 12 through 18. All right, so I'm going to read it real quickly. It says, if a fellow Hebrew, a man or woman, sells himself to you and serves you 6 years, in the 7th year you must let him go free. Now, in Israel, that's how they did slavery. Slavery wasn't a lifelong thing like they did in America. You had to free your slaves in the 7th year. The Bible also says that, and when you release him, you don't send him away empty-handed. Supply him liberally from your flocks, your threshing floor, your winepress. Give to him as the Lord your God has blessed you. Remember that you were slaves in Egypt, and the Lord your God redeemed you. That is why I give you this command today. But, this is the ticker right here. If your servant says to you, I do not want to leave you because he loves you and your family, and it is well with you, well off with you, meaning that he prospers with you, he does well with you. Then take an awl and push it through the earlobe into his door, and he will become your servant for life. Do the same thing to your maidservants. Now, what they're saying is that now these type of servants are no longer slaves. They are what you call bond servants. Bond servants. So let's talk about what a bond servant is. True worship comes out of bond service. It's service out of love. These servants now had an opportunity to be free, but because their master was a good master, not only was he their master, but he treated them like they were his own. Anybody up in here serve a master that treat them like you his own? Don't y'all serve a God who treats you like you are his own? You are his child. You are not like just some, slave out in the field or anything like that. He bestows great value upon you, not because of what you've done, not because of what you're able to do. All right? And so when you realize that we're supposed to come to a place where we serve our master out of love because we know that he loves us, so we choose to give that love back to him. And our service is motivated by appreciation, all right? He also has taken on the master's identity. So now these bond servants take their master's last name. I'm not a slave anymore, I'm a part of the family. You know what I'm saying? Y'all know the song, I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. This is the mentality that God wants us to come. So bond servants are actually now adopted children. Okay? So we come to with a mindset that we taking on a master identity, but the most important thing is that we're free, but we choose to stay and serve.